It was an opportunity for me to learn what I absolutely loved in life, which was taking care of people. What I always was good at was hiring the people that I needed to do those jobs that I hated to do. They were looking for the next paycheck. And I said, okay, let's set a trap. Tell them always to stay away from the franchises, because the franchises are always they're just about money. I mean, there's some they have 300 clients, but they wouldn't be able to tell you who they were. Trust yourself, trust and believe in yourself, and trust the people that work with you and for you, and get everything in order before you do it. So have your business plan, have your bookkeeper, have your CPA, have your policies and procedures, have everything in line before you actually do it, so that when you're set, when the state comes to review everything and you get your license, you're ready to go.
Hey guys, I'm here with my friend Terri Coomer, who is going to share her story of following her passion, building a business, selling a business, and everything she's learned along the way. Check it out. Are you a faith-based father and you want to have the adventure of a lifetime with your son? You have to check out the father-son hike of a lifetime on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. June of 2025, I'm going to be taking a small group of fathers and sons over to Spain. We are going to spend 6 days, hike 70 miles, have some of Spain's most amazing cuisines, see some of the most beautiful places and spaces, but most importantly, spend time together bonding with our sons. If you're interested in this adventure, check out Shoup.com. When you get to the website, click the Gentle Art of Leadership button and hover down to the father-son hike of a lifetime. Terri Coomer.
Nice to see you again, Matt.
It's been a minute. We were just talking offline about that.
Yes, it's been almost a year, actually,
Yeah.
at the book signing.
Yeah, you've been navigating a super interesting part of life and business. But before we get into that, backing up, it's always just cool to grab perspective on everybody that comes in here. I've got some new friends, but a lot more older friends, longtime friends. And we've known each other since the early 2000s.
Yes.
You knew Emily before she knew me?
Yes, that's true. Wow. Yep. I started working with Emily at Elder House years and years and years ago. And actually, you guys were the first paint job on my house after you opened up your painting company.
Yeah.
So.
And we did okay.
You did great.
I was thinking back to some of those. I'm like, not all of them went as great as they do now, but that's part of the journey. That's part of the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Emily loved working at Elder House. Mm-hmm. She was there. That was her junior, senior capstone. It was a combination of work with the degree.
Sure.
And that was cool. Was that your first time getting into that space with just adult care, adult respite? Because that's been a huge part of your life.
It has been. Let's see. I worked in the hospitals for a time before I moved up here to Fort Collins, and that was my first job up here. Anyway, I loved it. And it put me on the path to actually opening up my own business. So but that's where I met Emily.
And that was adult respite. So different kinds, I guess, of levels of care and ways that
this was adult daycare.
Right? They dropped them off for the day.
Exactly. Yeah. So they would bring them in. We would run programs for them all day long. And then they would leave usually around 3:00 in the afternoon and go back to their families. But it was an opportunity for me to learn what I absolutely loved in life, which was taking care of people. So.
Yeah. And you guys, I remember, had that really cool propane-powered bus. Wasn't it propane, or what kind of gas was it?
It was propane.
It was a monster.
It was a monster, and it was a nightmare sometimes. I remember getting caught up on Horsetooth with a bus full of people, and we broke down up there. So I had to,
stranded.
Yeah, we were totally stranded. But I've had nothing but fond memories of working there. So
what was it about being in that space that really hooked you to stay in that space?
I just really, really enjoy helping other people. And unfortunately, these people come in and they're not fully capable of taking care of themselves. So, we got the opportunity to help them with their activities of daily living. And because of that, it put me on a path of wanting to do this for a living. So that's how I opened up my own business.
Now, were you did you have a business background? Are you business minded? Was that you had the passion, obviously,
Had the passion,
do this.
But had no experience whatsoever. It was something that I really wanted to do. So after I left Elder House, I actually went to work for another home care company, Visiting Angels. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Sure.
But so I went to work for them and learned about home care in that aspect. And what I did from there is took what I learned from Visiting Angels and the things that I liked and didn't like, and then I made my own in accordance with that. So I basically opened up my own because I felt like I could do it better.
Yeah. So what were some of the things that you thought you could do better to serve the clients better in that space?
Well, I wanted to stay small, to offer the same caregivers because continuity of care was really important to me. Building relationships is really important to me. It was never really about money. It was more about just building the relationships. When I worked for Visiting Angels, the one thing I didn't like is that I gave them specific days that I could or couldn't work because I had private clients that I was working with as well. And they would always call me on my days off. And so what I chose to do when I opened up my own business was honor my caregivers' time. So if they came in and they said, I only want to work weekends or I only want to work part-time or I want to work full-time, I'll work as many hours as you want, I would accommodate that. And I stuck to that. And I think that was something that the caregivers really admired about my company.
Is it typical in that space that somebody that's being cared for might see different people throughout the week? So there's a lot of not turnover, but just different people dropping in. It's Jane one day and then Bill the next day, and versus just Jane all the time.
Right. And what I found is that not only for the caregivers, but for the clientele, they actually responded better to treatment when they actually saw the same people every time.
Okay.
They looked forward to seeing that caregiver every day, as opposed to having to tell the same story over and over again to new caregivers every day. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to stay small enough to where I could actually do that for the clients. That was important to me.
And then you start growing rather quickly and then catch the eye of a bigger conglomerate. I don't know if that's the word, bigger organization that eventually buys you.
Correct.
We'll park that down there, but just talk about those early days. So just what were you good at business? What did you suck at business?
Well, I'm not one of those people that likes to sit behind a computer. So scheduling for me, what I always was good at was hiring the people that I needed to do those jobs that I hated to do.
Is the paint or roof on your home or business starting to look a little shabby? If so, reach out to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D Painting and Roofing is a full-service residential and commercial painting and roofing contractor in Northern Colorado. And full disclosure, I'm the M in M&D. Check them out at mndpainting.com. Are you a small business trying to navigate all of the landscape of digital marketing and don't know where to go? Reach out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. They are the go-to source for all things digital marketing. They are the producers of this podcast, and they run all of the marketing for all of my companies. Check them out at imprint-digital.com.
I loved being out in the public, talking to people, meeting people. When people would call the business and say, hey, I'm looking for a home care company to take care of my spouse or my loved one, I would be the one that would actually go. And I would love to talk about my business and tell them the things that we could and couldn't do. And I was very, very proud of what the service that we offered. And we were highly recommended, word of mouth. I never did any advertising whatsoever.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
You never spent a dime.
Never spent a dime on advertising.
Nothing.
It was all word of mouth. It was people that had used us before that loved what we provided, and so they used us. They would actually tell their friends about us, and that's how we got business. What ended up happening is we exploded during COVID. Nobody wanted to put their loved ones in home care or in facilities anymore, so they wanted to keep them at home. And so because of our reputation, we got numerous calls, and I just couldn't field all those calls. And that was upsetting to me. I really, really wanted to help, but I just couldn't. We just didn't have the personnel to provide it.
So you just, at that point with that influx, just did what you could, turning people away?
Yep. Hired, as many caregivers as I possibly could. But it was hard at that time because caregivers were also scared to go into homes and work with the public because they were afraid of COVID as well. So what I did is I ended up taking the money that they offered, the PPE and the person, whatever it was, the
PPP.
the government The PP.
Government cheese.
Yes. I took the government money, even though we didn't need it.
Right.
And what I did is I
Yeah.
bonused my staff because they were the
Awesome.
ones that
Yes.
that were actually going into the homes and sacrificing their own health. And so I bonused my staff twice during that time because they were the ones that were sacrificing. So
There's that. And then all of the clients that you're serving, they're probably higher risk.
absolutely.
All of them?
Most of them.
Most of them?
Yeah, I would say most were later in life. Like we're talking late 80s or early 80s, late 90s, or up to late 90s.
Yeah.
And at end of life, really.
Okay.
So different ailments that, took them down that path where they needed to have somebody with them 24 hours a day.
And then you were doing basic general, help them get dressed, feeding them, home tasks, but also medical.
We were non-medical.
No, you were non-medical.
We were non-medical. So we would go in and do everything except for medications and wound care. Those were the primary things that we did not do. It was a lot of companionship. It was a lot of just making sure that they were safe in their own environment.
Yeah.
So
I always hear that the conversation, or there's like the camps or opinions, is everybody knows they have to love what they do. I heard somebody the other day say, well, that's great that you love what you do, but if you don't know shit about business, the guy was real, in everybody's face. You're not going to do good at business if you don't know about business. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the passion can override. You'll figure out the business on the way. What maybe side of the coin are you on with that? Because you literally came in, no business
I had
experience,
no business
had never run a
experience
business,
at all.
didn't hang out with business people,
Nope.
didn't read a business book.
Nope. It actually started with my passion, obviously. And then I was doing some private care. I was doing some clientele private care, and I lost one of those clients. And in the process, the family ended up gifting me enough money that I could start my business without ever starting a loan.
When you say lose, they passed?
They passed.
Oh, got it.
So they passed, and the family just appreciated what I did for them. So they gifted me money. I put that in a savings account and then tried to come up with a business plan, which I did. I came up with a business plan and decided that I was going to do this and shoot from the hip. And it was me and 3 other people at the start of the business. When I sold the business, it was 3 staff members, myself, and 26 caregivers.
It was
So
up there.
it grew. It grew
was a party.
substantially. Yeah, it was.
Was the business plan fully written out? Was it kind of the napkin business plan? Because everybody's looks a little different. I've never formally written down a business plan, so I'm always curious.
Mine was actually on a piece of paper that was written while I was heading up to Central City to gamble. So it was just something that was, kind of thrown together on a drive. And I followed through. I was scared, obviously, taking that leap forward. I mean, a lot of people stay in business, right? Or they stay content with whatever they're doing because they're afraid of change. I was there too, but I thought, the only way I'm going to know is if I try. So
was it afraid of change or afraid of failing or
failing for me? Yeah. Okay. My background is, I didn't have a ton of support when I was growing up as far as, I was a good athlete, but other than that, I really didn't have the support from home. And so for me, it was, trying to believe in myself and trusting myself to be able to do this. Yeah. So that's what I did. I took a leap of faith, and it was very successful, and I'm very proud of what we had.
How do you get over that hump though? Because I've been there. You're like, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do this, and then you get the little voices. But hold on, I could fail. What does that look like? And then you dig yourself down that rabbit trail, whatever that is. What is that thing for you that took you in that place of I'm doing this?
Well,
a lot of people get stuck there.
And for me, it was talking to somebody who believed in me and gave me enough confidence that I could believe in myself to take that step forward and take that leap of faith. You're never going to know unless you try. And so for me, it was just trusting myself and making sure that I could do this. And if I failed, I failed, but it doesn't define me. It's just part of who I am. So that's the reason why I did it.
So when did you know? So you're in day one, kind of take us through day one, week one, month one. Is it just like on the roller coaster with no seatbelt holding the rails? Did everything start coming together quicker than you thought, slower than you thought? Like when did you know it was going to be, hey, this is working?
It was It was slow at first. The biggest reason is because I didn't know what I needed as far as opening up a home care business. So what I did is I trusted the people that I worked with, which Visiting Angels, the two owners there, were fantastic in giving me some guidance as to what I needed to do to start my business, policies and procedures, your plan. And so I wrote it from there. And then I got in touch with the state of Colorado. They came up and we talked about the other things that I needed, insurance, for example. And I had to have a notebook with all of the policies and procedures, and I didn't have that. So I had to create that. So it was a little bit slower, just finding out all the information that I needed to start the business. But once I started the business, it grew very, very quickly. Like I said, it was me and 3 other people. And before I knew it, I was like hiring right and left because I had to, because we had more and more clients. So the tax thing was a big learning experience for me, obviously. Yes. So
just parking enough aside and planning and the quarterlies and all
then
that.
getting a building, getting an actual border. What is it called? Brick and mortar. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. An actual place where we could actually put a sign and say, here we are. This is who we are. So it was a little bit slower, but once we got going, it was absolutely fantastic. I was really happy with what we developed.
How were you with hiring? How's that process?
Hiring was an interesting field for me. I trusted way too much, to be honest with you. So if somebody came in and they said, this is what I want to do and this is what I love to do, I would hire them because I thought they had the same passion that I did. And a lot of people came in and it was just they were looking for the next paycheck.
Yeah.
So, and I found that out rapidly. Yeah. So what I did is I implemented a staging process. So we would do a phone interview first. Mm-hmm. If they passed the phone interview, we would call them in and have a conversation with them face to face. And if that went well, then we would have them come back and fill out paperwork. And if they came back for the paperwork part, then we would actually offer a job. Because what I found is that a lot of people were just trying to fill time or fill their workman's comp.
Or unemployment.
Exactly.
I did 6 interviews this
unemployment.
week.
Yes. That's what it was.
So just you think implementing those multiple steps and interactions that weeded out? It
weeded out some of those, because they couldn't use us because we didn't offer a job. So we made sure that we had good quality caregivers that we were going to be able to put and that I could trust going into somebody's home.
So is your personality style more naturally initially trusting?
Absolutely.
Of other people? So then how do you safeguard that? Or how did you protect that from people getting through just with the BS? Or is there a question you ask people or just a way that you found out to know if you could really trust them or they really wanted to care for the elderly? That's huge. Yeah.
And so what I did is I steered away from the 18-year-olds, to be honest with you. And I know that's, putting a demographic aside, but basically what I learned is that people that really, really care and have the passion for this are people who have already been out in the job field and worked for a period of time and found what their true passion really was. Okay. And so it took some time to get to that, but I found the right demographic to work with the people that were my clients.
So they have to have done this before. Mm-hmm. This couldn't be the first rodeo for them. Because you could say you like that until you got to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I could weed them out too by asking certain questions like, how are you with death? How are you with bodily fluids? How are you with, certain things? And you can tell by somebody's reaction right away whether or not they're going to be okay with that. So I learned a lot from that, from just having conversations with people, and I trusted my gut. Sometimes it led me astray. Sometimes it did.
It's never perfect, right?
Yeah.
But it can always get better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a one experience that you already know about of, somebody stealing from a client. And that was actually devastating to me. Yes. Because it's my reputation. It was my name on the business. And so, I prided myself on putting, trustworthy caregivers in people's homes. And when somebody, breaks that trust, it's very hard. It depends on how you handle it with the client, obviously, as to whether or not that's going to actually go south.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you shared that story because that was an interesting story. It was cool to revisit that. So you're working for this is a long-time client.
Very
if
long,
I recall.
5 years. Mm-hmm.
The level of trust and relationship that's built is there. And this was a gal that was working for you. And then all of a sudden, was it $100 bills go missing from
it was,
the sock drawer?
Well, it was, so this particular client had a black portfolio that she kept extra cash in, just around the house for, emergencies or whatever. And she happened to call me one morning and said that this money was missing, or this amount of money was missing. And I was like, really? And she said, yeah. And she said, I've racked my brains trying to figure it out. And she said, unfortunately, I think it was one of your caregivers. And I said, okay, let's set a trap. And so what we did is
quite the trap. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
trap.
I gave her the money back in the exact denominations that she had said that she was taken, or that was taken from her. And so what we did is after every caregiver that left, she would go count the money. And so we could eliminate, certain people. And it was one particular day that she came home from the grocery store, went into her room and counted the money, and there was $360 missing.
And did you write serial numbers down too? Or the number, the count of the bills?
Exactly, exactly. So she called me up and I said, okay, so we know who it is. So I called the sheriff's department and I had them meet me out at the house and we had her arrested on the spot.
You weren't messing around. And you can't in something like that.
No, and she begged me not to press charges. She had 3 kids at home and she was, destitute and so on and so forth, which, I can appreciate that, but also these clients, this is what they're living on. This is their retirement money and you're taking from them and you're in turn, running my name through the mud. So I just, I had to do what I had to do.
And you can't pull that card when you just stole from a dying elderly person that you're supposed to be taking care of, and they totally trust you.
Right.
Yeah.
And the client I actually wanted to press charges too, so it wasn't just me; it was the client too. So, and how I made it right with her, it was just believing in her and giving her the money back and establishing listen, I believe you and I trust you, so I'm going to give you the money back and we're going to go from here. And so we worked together to try to do the right thing. Yeah. And because of that, I still have a relationship with that person today. So
we were talking a little bit offline. The only death I've ever experienced or been a part of is put our dog to sleep, and that was rough. We did in home. Kids were there with us as our first dog, but how do you deal with that? If you're a Christian small business owner, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. They are a Christian peer advisory community here in Northern Colorado and the Front Range that is designed to give you encouragement, support, and insight to grow your business with other like-minded Christian business owners. Not only are they a sponsor and a partner of this podcast, but I'm also a member of their community. Check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. If you've got junk in your life or business that you need removed, reach out to one of our sponsors, Addicts. They are a full-service junk removal company, and they'll be able to take care of you at your home or your business to get rid of whatever you don't want. Check them out at hulkaddictsjunk.com. Hey, we're back from that sponsor break. Leading into that sponsor break, this new sign that we were digging just fell. We'll plug that at the end. Got to stay to the end to see the bloopers.
There you go.
You were awesome though, Joey. Did you see that? We were talking. We'll get back into the question. You're talking about death and being with people at the end of their life, and you're sharing this really beautiful story and point, and the thing just it doesn't just fall. It falls down and then off the table, and you just kept going.
Well, that was one of my friends that passed, making sure that I do the right thing by them.
I love it. I love it. So let's get back to that.
Sure.
We had, we're talking offline about what that's like. I've never experienced that more than losing a dog, which was super, super hard.
Sure.
So just talk about that process and how that's been special and important. I thought that was impactful what you said.
Sure.
Offline.
Well, I've been with quite a few of my clients when they've passed, which I think it's the family's way of giving me a gift of that, being part of that journey as well. It gives us closure. I mean, we've worked with these people for many, many years in some cases, and so it's the opportunity to have some closure with the client as well. Just recently had a death of one of my former clients that I sat with for 2 days while she was going through that process. It's hard to watch. However, it is a beautiful thing to be a part of the family and just the memories and the conversations that take place before they pass. So I just believe that it's a really, really amazing gift.
Yeah.
And I've been with somebody when they've actually done the medical aid in dying, which is MAID. Colorado voters voted on that several years ago. So we're one of the states where you can actually drink the solution and you're gone in a couple hours.
Really?
So,
Wow.
And I was with one client when they did that too. And one of the most peaceful deaths I've ever experienced. So I was very happy for him.
Is that so? What is that exactly? So they drink, they ingest
Yes.
something?
So at end of life, you have to have 2 doctors sign off on it. So in this particular case, this gentleman had cancer, was given approximately 6 weeks to live, and chose to go ahead and end his life because he didn't want to go through the pain and the suffering.
Yeah.
So basically what you do is his doctor, his cancer doc, had to sign it, and then his primary doc signed it as well. And so then we give it to the pharmacist. The pharmacist creates this solution. It's 3 drugs combined, and you pour it in a glass with juice or water or however you want to do it. They drink it. They have to drink it within a minute, and then they just go to sleep. Wow. And then they pass. So yeah, it takes about 2 hours usually. Okay. So, but it was by far one of the most peaceful deaths I've ever experienced. Yeah. So
what would you say to people that may be coming up on a situation where they're going to be part of somebody's passing? How can they be supportive in that? What are maybe some things to expect? Was there anything that surprised you? Like somebody's new to that space.
Yeah.
It's got to be a scary thing, I think, for both, like the person passing
Sure.
and the person that's going to be there alongside them.
Sure. So part of my interview process was asking caregivers or future caregivers if they had a problem with death and dying. And if they did, I never put them in the home. But when they were in the home, it's just being respectful, obviously, and then listening to what the family's needs are, kind of stepping back and just letting the process happen, but be helpful where you can be, and being respectful of what the patient needs as well as the family. So it is a process, but every one of them is different, to be honest with you. So all the ones that I've been a part of, not one of them has been the same. Okay. So, yeah.
Are they all peaceful, or some of them more hard?
I think it's, to be honest, I think it has to do with their faith, their religion sometimes. In this particular, the one that just passed away a week ago was very, very active in the Catholic Church, had a falling out with the Catholic Church, so didn't really have any closure with the Catholic Church. Okay. And so during her time, at least the last week, she was really, really struggling. And I think it's probably because she just didn't have any closure. So I think that can be, something that could prevent them from dying in a timely manner, I guess.
You think it's a faith-driven thing, or more just not closure in some part of their life where there was a falling out?
I think maybe faith and, maybe not seeing or having problems with somebody in their family that maybe they didn't get closure on, or not seeing somebody in their family. Like, a lot of people, that their family all comes at the end of life, right? Most people do anyway. And in this particular case, maybe she needed to see somebody else. We thought maybe, she needed to see somebody, maybe one of her sisters or something like that couldn't make it here. But that sister did happen to call the day that she died. So maybe that was the closure that she needed.
You hear people hanging on, holding on till something
exactly.
they need. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
Because you pursue your passion. Not a business person. Learning business along the way. And build this amazing business. Did you ever think you would sell it? Did you get approached? Did you seek out sale? How did that all come about?
I had grown exponentially in 3 years. We had grown 33% for 3 years in a row, and we were getting beyond what I felt comfortable with. Like I said before, I wanted to stay small enough to where I could offer the same caregivers. That was really important to me. And I just felt like we were kind of getting outside the lines of what I wanted to stay. So I actually approached a gentleman about selling it because I didn't want clients to suffer because I wasn't going to get bigger. I wanted to stay focused on staying small. That was who I was, and in order for it to grow, I needed to have somebody else take it over. So I approached an accountant, I guess, or a business salesman, I guess is what he is. Anyway, I talked to him about it. He took all my numbers, and then we put it up. And I was approached by many people, but it ended up being sold to a gentleman out of Oregon.
Really cool. Mm-hmm. So the numbers. So with business sales, a lot you talk about multiples of EBITDA, cash flow. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that was all new language, right? So you're like, just figure out business. Now you're learning all these. So in a space like that, in a business like that you're in, is there an expected or general type of return multiples of EBITDA? How did everybody come up with that?
Yeah, again, I was never, I was not the numbers person. I had a bookkeeper and I had a CPA that did all that stuff for me. So basically what they did is they put all the numbers out for them. And I just had the conversations, kind of like what we went through before, is I'm the conversation person. I'm the one that goes out and just sells my business. So when the buyer came to me and talked to me, it was just, we were having a conversation about what I did to grow the business. Who I had working for me, and the numbers were all there. They verified everything. It took a long time. It was about 1.5 years before the sale actually went through. But just to give you an example, that business has only grown 3% in the last year. So for us to grow 33% 3 years in a row, you can tell who we were and what we were about. Yeah. And like I said, I was very, very proud of the product that I put out there. Not so proud of what they've become because they became number based.
Is it? Yeah.
It's a lot of home care companies are number based. I mean, they're bottom line. They just want to make money, and that's not who I was. And so when they changed the name, I was actually really glad that they changed the name because I was no longer a part of it.
So that just kind of washed you from the whole thing.
Exactly.
That's when you focus on the profit, the people will run, right? But you poured into the people.
I did.
Yeah.
And so that was the hardest piece for me, is actually leaving the business, was my caregivers. Because they were still working for this company, and now it's changed. It's changed ownership. It's changed their morals and their values were way different than mine, and so a lot of caregivers were kind of left. What are we doing now? And so they all knew. I did tell them when the sale was final. Before we actually transitioned to. Him taking over, it was, I sat with all my caregivers and told them what was going on, and I didn't know what was going to change. They told me it was not going to change, but obviously anytime you have different ownership, things are going to change. So, but a lot of those caregivers still work for me today. I mean, I get calls, even weekly, for people that are looking for care. So I keep in touch with my caregivers, and if they have availability, I'll send them out.
So when the sale conversation comes up and then sale happens, you get right to the other side of it. Money's in the bank. You're like, all right, do you retire? I mean, was that, we were talking a little bit about, you're in this.
Yeah.
You'll never retire, right? You're in this weird space right now.
I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And again, the only reason I really sold was because I was missing out so much on my grandkids' life. I have 3 grandkids, and they were doing a lot of activities, and I would schedule to be there at their activity, and then a caregiver would call in sick. And I know a lot of other companies would just be like, oh, well, we're just not going to cover that client for the day. I couldn't do that because my name was on the business. I wanted to be there, and so I would be the one that would go. And I'm proud of that, but in turn, it took a lot of time away from my family. Yeah. And so I love what I do, and I love caring for other people. So I don't know that I'll ever retire completely, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe in a couple of years.
How's that time been after the sale, though? So now I'm assuming you have all this time freedom that opens up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can only play golf so much.
How did you fill that, right? What did you say, 30 seconds?
Yeah, I think 30 seconds. I was going to play golf every day, and I was going to fish every day because those are the things I love to do. And Yeah, you can only do that so much before, it's empty. It's just not something that's rewarding. It didn't give back to me. So where I get my gratification is by taking care of other people. So I decided that I was going to go to work for Orthopedic Center of the Rockies. Yeah. So I work there 2 days a week. My background's in physical therapy, so I thought it would be a perfect fit for me. And it has been. It's been great. I 2 days a week, I get to punch a clock, go home, forget about it. I don't have, my phone's not going off at 3:00 in the morning with, some dying patient or, a problem that's occurred and that needs my attention. So.
Yeah. So now that you're out of the business, you've been in the business for so long, if somebody's looking to hire a company for an adult that needs help, needs care, what would be some of those top things that people should look for that they don't? What are some of the decisions you see people making where you shouldn't think about it that way? What's maybe some advice for people that need a service like what you provide?
So I always tell them to look at testimonials on the back of the website, if there are testimonials, to see. I tell them always to stay away from the franchises, because the franchises are always just their bottom line, or they're in for the bottom line. They're just about money. I mean, there's some that they have 300 clients, but they wouldn't be able to tell you who they were.
Do you think they just don't care at the end of the day?
I think they're just, they don't care. I had a situation where we dovetailed with another care company. We did the daytime shift, they did the nighttime shift. So it was 12 hours for us, 12 hours for them. The first night, we were getting ready to leave at 9:00 at night. This other care company shows up. The caregiver is drunk. So I immediately tell my caregiver to stay. They're not going to go anywhere. Send this one away, send that other company away, called the owner, and he had no idea who the caregiver was. And I was like, how do you not know who you're hiring? So at least I can say that I knew every single one of my caregivers. I could tell you everything about their background and so on and so forth. Yeah. But so to me, it's stay away from the franchises, because I just don't think that they care enough. And look at testimonials on the back, see what other people have said, and then go by experience. I mean, I've worked with a lot of home care companies. I've worked with a lot of different facilities. And so I just trust my gut on that. And so I usually tell them what I would do, and then they have the choice to go with what I would do or find it out on their own.
Yeah. Do you miss the business? Are there any regrets, or like, you should have kept it? Do you ever have that?
No.
So you're.
I was ready. Okay. I was ready. I'm totally happy with my decision. I'm sad. I'm only sad for my caregivers. That's the only thing, and then that's just comes with my nature. I care for other people, and so when I left, that was the only thing that I was really, really sad about, was what are they going to do now? Yeah. So, but they're all doing. I mean, they all landed on their feet. They always do. Everybody lands on their feet. So I don't regret it. I've gotten to spend all the time that I want with my family now, and that's what's really, really important to me. Yeah.
So what would Terri now, on this side of the sale of the business, go back and say to Terri that was ready to take that jump, just getting in, really scared, no experience?
Let's see. That's a really good question. I would say trust yourself, trust and believe in yourself, and trust the people that work with you and for you. So, and get everything in order before you do it. So have your business plan, have your bookkeeper, have your CPA, have your policies and procedures, have everything in line before you actually do it, so that when you're set, when the state comes to review everything and you get your license, you're ready to go. Especially
in a business like that. Mm-hmm. See, I didn't do that. I got fired at 11. I was out on the streets at 2. So I think I printed some business cards. I remember those days. And then we painted your house. Wow. Like you were one of those first.
Yeah.
That's wild. What would you say to just a new business owner just getting into business? Other than that, right? What you would have told your younger self?
Trust the process. It is a process, and to trust the process. It's not going to happen overnight. And I mean, for example, my son actually started a business, and it failed within a matter of 2 years, I think. Yeah. But it's because he wanted everything right now. And so you have to trust the process and understand that you're not going to make millions right away. And if that's your goal, then you're in it for the wrong reason. You need to love what you do, and you need to be able to put your whole heart and soul into it. And that's why we were successful, because I did that. So,
yeah, and putting aside the potential short-term gain when you know the right thing is the long-term relationship can be hard when there's a lot of gain sitting on the table.
Sure.
You're like, I could scoop this money up now, but it's not good.
Yeah. So that just trust the process.
So what do you think's next?
Some travel, maybe. I don't know. I have a cabin up in Red Feather, and I want to spend more time up there. We do rent it quite a bit in the summer, but I would like to spend more time up there. So, probably 6 months up there, maybe 6 months down here. I do have elderly parents that live down here too. They just moved here 3 years ago from Arizona. Because of what I do, they want me to be their caregiver. And so that's hard too, is trying to find the time to actually go do the things that I want to do, but then have one foot here too to take care of them. So it's just, I honest to God, don't know. I'm just going to trust my instincts and trust my gut and just kind of go with it and see where I land.
You're in a really cool space though, to be able to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm really happy where I'm at. And I love what I do still. I still get to have conversations with people every single day at the orthopedic center. I still have one client, that I work with privately. And it just gives me that warm, fuzzy feeling of doing this for a living. Yeah. So
have you always been like that your whole life? Were you always pour into other people, serve other people? Or it was prior to Elder House and prior to...
Of serving other people and actually taking care of other people, yes, but probably not to the extent that I do it now. So I've always loved other people and always loved to do for other people more than I would do for myself. I would always give more than I would take, and that's okay with me. I was very, very happy doing that, and I still am. I'm still doing that.
Do you ever find people that are just givers, contributors? They're always pouring into other people. Like, how do you fill your cup? How do you balance that? Did you ever experience the burnout, or it's like I'm serving, and then boom, I'm just done? Because I see that theme with some people.
And I think that it can be, monotonous sometimes. I mean, getting up and seeing the same people every single day and trying to work through their issues as well as trying to balance your own. Going to a house, just knowing that I've got this person that is my responsibility and I need to, this is temporary. It's a temporary situation, right? And so just putting your needs and your wants in the back seat and caring for this person until, whatever time frame they have left. Yeah. So I think, the monotony it's real, but you can work through it if you have the positive mindset. Okay. So
thanks so much for coming out.
Of course.
And sharing all of this. And I totally do think your friend was here. Part of that, right? When that
I think so.
Right when that fell. We'll have to cut that. We'll cut that in a good spot, Joey. Gosh, anything else that we haven't covered that we wanted to talk about? Because we're almost coming up on an hour. I told you to go fast.
Wow, it went really fast.
Super fast.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I mean, I appreciate everything that you do too.
Thank you.
I mean, you've done remarkable things since the time that I first met you in my kitchen, asking you to paint my house.
So, that was a little shit.
I know. I just think that it's amazing what you and Emily have created. So,
thank you.
You should be very proud.
Well, I've appreciated just our conversations. We've had some great conversations just about life and family and everything. It's been
which you and I will always have that. I mean, we always have that. So, totally. But no, I value this friendship, and I hope that it continues to grow.
Well, thanks for being here. We're gonna wrap up. We wrap up every episode the same way. You've got the statement written down there that you want to leave with the world.
I do.
What is it?
It is live in the moment and always stay true to yourself.
Terri Coomer, that's a wrap.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here? And please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. Hey, one more thing before you go. Head over to my website, mattshoup.com, and make sure that you sign up for the free tools. I will drop you an email with a whole bunch of life, leadership, and business building resources that will make you better. And I'll also keep in touch with you with all of the events, experiences, and updates that I've got coming your way.